Hey everyone, it's Varouche and welcome to my channel. I'm excited to be here with you guys today to talk about the eclipse that's coming up, but more importantly, the Pluto-Mars square that is over us as we speak. Yesterday I did a detailed analysis. I called it a free workshop because it was an hour long, where I explained how the square between Pluto and Mars feeds into a larger cycle of Pluto and Capricorn that dates back to 2008, when the first time Pluto and Mars joined together in Capricorn. It did get really detailed, and I did really hunker down and deep dive in that session because once I started exploring those energies, it was really like visceral and a lot to say. So it's a little bit of an intense astrology session, but I promise there is some silver lining. What I'd like to do today with you guys is the all sign part of that workshop. And so basically I want to go through every single zodiac sign, sun, moon, or rising, and tell you how it's going to impact each one of those placements. And so what I'd like to do in the intro, I understand not everyone likes the heavy astrology. And to be frank, my personality is sort of intense. And so I am sort of an intense person, especially about certain topics. And so I am Pluto ruled, I am Mars ruled. So I do get intense, and that's not necessarily easily digestible content for social media, although that's the kind of content that I like the best, ruminating and deeply thinking about transits like this, especially that shape our human experience, right? So I love those deep, long videos, but in terms of social media and people's tolerance for astrology, I know not everyone is into an hour-long discussion on why Pluto-Mars planetary cycle is the big news coming into the eclipse. So I know it's too much details for everyone. So first of all, if you're interested in hearing about it, I linked it in the comments so you can watch the full 1 hour video and get all the scoop about what the Mars-Pluto cycle means and all of the nuance. What I'd like to do with you guys now is talk about it in a superficial way. Some of it is going to be a little bit of a repeat from yesterday, but I have new information to share as well, and kind of give you guys the light version of what we talked about, and not necessarily focus so much on it's all going to be astrology, but we're not going to be talking heavy transits. We're going to talk about the effect of this aspect more so than the technical side. So those of you who are astrology nerds just like me, enjoy the full video. I really recommend it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I actually did a practice run of it, and it was only 30 minutes long. So I came on here thinking, oh, it's going to be 30 minutes. But once I started explaining it, it took an hour. So it's really a big one, guys. So that's why I called it a workshop, because it's really, it's a lot of information. But what I would like to do right now with you guys is talk about it at a top level. So this is a chart for October 5th, which is going to be fine for us because we're talking about the conjunction with the South Node a lot as well. So here is your top level explanation for the Pluto-Mars square. That is the closing square for the final conjunction of Pluto and Mars in Capricorn that began in 2008. That final conjunction happened on March 2022, so last year, in the same degree that Pluto is now, because of Pluto's retrograde transit. Pluto is actually in the same position that it was when Mars and Pluto joined together last year. And so Pluto is stationing direct as we speak right now, and it's forming a square to Mars and loosely now to the South Node and North Node. And so we're seeing a lot of things come up as a part of this cycle. Just right up front, I don't think this is a bad transit. Squares are typically interpreted as stress angles, negative angles in astrology. However, in terms of planetary cycles, just like any other form of astrology, I think the square, what it actually is doing is propelling us forward into the future. So some of the things that are happening may be intense, it may be bringing things up, but they are closing things out. They're pushing events forward so that we can finish that theme and move on to the new energy. Like I mentioned yesterday, the new cycle between Pluto and Mars has already begun. So in May of this year, Pluto and Mars formed an opposition in Leo and Aquarius. And so this was the marking point of the new cycle. The cycle doesn't have an ultimate beginning or ending. Humans always have this, hang up on making things a certain way, organizing things a certain way. So I understand that a conjunction between Pluto and Mars for some of us may feel more intuitive. However, the first major aspect between Pluto and Mars, while Pluto was in Aquarius this year, was this opposition. So this new phase that marks the relationship between Pluto and Mars in Aquarius already began this year. And so this closing square is referencing the last 15 years, and now we're already beginning some things moving forward. One huge example is AI. So around the springtime this year, AI just boomed. We got ChatGPT and Midjourney, lots of different software that is guided by AI, and that is, of course, a part of Pluto in Aquarius. So it's exciting. We're in the transition phase. We've already talked about another transition, which is the kite, and now this square marks kind of closing out old issues, closing out old themes of the last 15 years. So I don't want you guys to be afraid. I think that this is exciting, and although some of you might be emotionally triggered or facing difficulty right now, this final square that we're under right now is offering up solutions to those problems that we've been tackling in the last 15 years. And also some of the world events that have been happening for the last 15 years that have been pushing this Capricorn energy are now, how do I say this? It's an audit of that system. So basically, whatever's happening in your life or in world politics, if something's out of balance in that Capricorn transit of Pluto, it's kind of like an audit, right? An audit means that the energy is being assessed, and wherever it's out of balance, there is offering up solutions or breakthroughs and confrontations too, to solve the issues that Pluto has brought up. So we talked about Pluto and Capricorn a lot yesterday, specifically in light of the 2008 financial crisis, because the 2008 financial crisis is when Pluto and Mars joined together in 2008, 15 years ago. And the crisis itself happened while Pluto was in Sagittarius. It was also transitioning between two signs. In 2008, it was transitioning between Sagittarius and Capricorn. It was entering Capricorn. And so in that transition period, the crash actually happened while Pluto was in Sag, but the response to the crash was largely when Pluto was in Capricorn alongside this transit with Mars. And so the big theme of the last 15 years has been money printing and overextension of power to the effect that that power that was overextended, and I'm speaking a little politically, but this isn't a political comment, it sort of began to erode. The cost of exerting power on a global scale has become really high. And so any one region or country shouldering that cost is really struggling with that right now. It's super expensive to exert control or power towards bigger regions. Everything's gotten expensive. So I would say that that's the theme of the last 15 years, and that trickles down to all of us, and that's what we're dealing with as well right now. But like I said, the antidote to this very intense power structure is this Pluto in Aquarius, and you've already heard about it a lot, but I'm just referencing it now. So someone just asked me in the other video to do a video on Pluto in Aquarius, and that's definitely in the works. This year has been difficult for me to put out content on time, but it's not a transit that I have to rush to do it. I rather do it right than just give you guys some haphazard energy or information, but it's definitely coming. And Pluto in Aquarius, we've talked about it already quite a bit, is going to provide solutions to the energy of Pluto in Capricorn that we've been dealing with up until now. And like I said, the big theme of Pluto in Capricorn in respect to the Mars transit, because they're working together at this time, Mars and Pluto are like two brothers. They are like twins. They have a very similar energy. They both are rulers of Scorpio. Mars is exalted in the position where the 2022 conjunction happened in March of last year. And this is where Mars is exalted, 28 degrees of Capricorn. So this final square is referencing Mars's exaltation point as well. So we have this very special dynamic between Pluto and Mars that has carried us through Pluto and Capricorn. And so all these issues around power, vertical power, between people and between countries has been a theme. And so we're in for a massive shift as Pluto switches into Aquarius, and we've already begun that shift. But the square between Pluto and Mars is sort of our solution. The south node with Mars here is giving you a solution to the things in your life that have to do with power inequality. So if you have a bully in your family, let's say, and they're exerting control in unfair ways, and for 15 years you've been putting up with that, there's themes emerging here around solutions that you can take in the future when Pluto moves into Aquarius on how to deal with that. For other people, it will be your boss. For some of us, it'll be the government. For some of us, everybody's different. But the theme is unapologetic abuses of power, narcissism, and psychopathy, which are the shadow side of Pluto and Capricorn, right? So we talked about Pluto and Capricorn yesterday, and I want to give you the list of the major themes that we are finding solutions to now. So on the bright side, Pluto and Capricorn, with all the money printing, allowed many people to make money. And the visualization I have for that is a big giant whale, right? Sort of swimming along, and lots of little fish swimming alongside of it, right? So when a big fish or a whale is swimming in the ocean, little fish kind of catch on with it to reap the benefits of the torque of being alongside of it. So the whale isn't preying on the fish, so the fish go alongside to gain the benefits. And that's the visualization I have for how many people have made a lot of money in the last 15 years by gaining the benefit from this money printing that overall wasn't good for the collective, but did definitely benefit certain individuals and certain institutions. And so it's like the whale. It's a kind of a parasitic relationship, not a parasitic one because you're not directly attached to it, but it's a mutual benefit, or I don't know what the proper word is, but it's a beneficial. So you kind of got along for the ride, so to speak. So you didn't do anything wrong if you made money, but that's really why you made money, especially if you never made money before. That's where you were getting money, because money was liberalized over the last 15 years, and some questionable things were undertaken to achieve that growth at the expense of others, but many people innocently got to benefit from that as well. But it did create great inequality. So Pluto in Capricorn is also about inequality, and it did leave many, many people behind. As certain people got along for the ride, most people were left behind financially. And this can even be attributed to a whole generation. Specifically Gen Z, who are Pluto in Sagittarius, got really, really hit hard by this. I think it's a blessing in disguise. So if you have Gen Z kids, or if you are Gen Z yourself, I know it's really hard for you right now, but I think that the solution will come when Pluto is in Aquarius for what's happening. I think it's a blessing in disguise in terms of the things that are happening. The reason money got so disadvantageous for your whole generation is that Pluto is adjacent to your natal Pluto placement. So that's why your generation got hit hard. However, in the long term, I think you guys are going to really benefit by some of the things that are happening. So that's something to think about. So another major theme that has come up with this Pluto in Capricorn is representation. And if you heard me say this yesterday, I'll go really fast. So hang out with us. Maybe I'll say something different, or have some different insight. So the representation means as people reached for power and money, many people got left behind, and in certain processes like the democratic process or in corporations, workers and citizens got disconnected from that process. And especially in something like democracy, more and more people started looking around at their elected officials and saying, what the heck, man, you're making all these decisions without asking us, which is essentially how democracy is supposed to work. So whether it's in your home, a bossy aunt who doesn't listen to what you say and always pushes weight, or whether you were stuck in a job where bosses were not giving you full respect, this idea of representation really became a shadow side of Pluto in Capricorn. And so Mars squaring Pluto in Capricorn here might be touching upon these themes. So as I'm telling you them, think about what kind of things have been coming up for you right now that are themes and solutions to the past 15 years. Take this time to assess it, write it down, and then you will have a checklist of things that you can address once the energy is more favorable as Pluto moves into Aquarius, okay? So that's why we're talking about this. So the other issue is double standards, right? So when the financial crisis happened and there were bailouts for the different banks and different institutions. So the double standard was many people lost their homes while certain individuals and institutions got a bailout and even made money off of that crash. So the double standard isn't just in the financial market. I'm not into doing mundane astrology right now because I think a lot of it is of what's going on in the world is in bad faith. I think it's a money grab right now, so I don't think it's helpful to say anything. But even in your life, you may have experienced double standards where consideration was given to certain people, but when you needed help, it was like you were the problem. Or when you needed help, you were asked to help, but when you needed help, you were ignored. So we've had 15 years of major double standards between people where we are asked to bend over backwards for some individuals while our needs are completely ignored. And there's almost a psychopathic energy that's directed to us who are asking for help or who are trying to get help for various different things that come up. Also, it's been the rise of predatory people. there's these psychological studies that study how people who attain a certain amount of wealth and power can turn psychopathic or disconnected to lower classes, to people who have less. Once it's actually like a psychology study. Once they have a certain amount of money or equity, and I don't have the study on hand, I don't think it's important, but once they have a certain amount of money or status on hand for 5 years or so, their relationship to the lower classes becomes disconnected, and it's very hard for them to identify with the issues of the middle class or lower class. And I think that this is the principle that has been affecting us while Pluto has been in Capricorn. As there's been this vertical increase in equity and wealth, many people who have risen in prominence and strength do not have the emotional capacity or ability to identify with the people below them. And as they maintain that power, as they grow in power and wealth, they start believing in fallacies such as meritocracy and all these different weird concepts that sort of blame other people to justify why they got lucky and why they have what they have. So this kind of predatory energy may not be just pure psychopathy. It may be essentially people not being able to identify with each other as everything became so stratified, like as the difference between people increased so much. However, because it's been a predatory environment, reaching for money, things like that, people who thrive in predatory environments are also predatory themselves because they're willing to do things that other people are not willing to do. So unfortunately, over the last 15 years, in this environment, it's not been a nice environment because people have been really unfair and enabled to be unfair. I think cancel culture is almost like a false front, this false idea that we're addressing these things, but behind the scenes, actually, people have been increasingly predatory. I think that will really change once Pluto enters Aquarius, and this square between Mars and Pluto is giving you some signs in your personal life how that's going to be addressed. Okay, my writing is chicken scratch. I usually use the computer, so sometimes I can't even read my own writing. Oh, AI. Okay, so AI is sort of this Pluto-Mars opposition in Aquarius and Leo that came up in the spring. But there is an overlap from Pluto in Capricorn, and this is just something that I came up with. I don't know if anybody else has been studying this, but it's what strikes me when people are talking about AI or when they're debating about it. The idea that AI has the capability to read all of our documents. Okay, so it has great computing capacity to be able to understand and compute a lot of documents. And there are a lot of documents out there in every country that literally explain what happened in different situations. And AI has the resources and the mental capacity to look at all these documents and to do a math about it and figure out what actually happened. Because the story, like, history is written by the victors, and sometimes that victory history is propaganda. And as a person who has studied a lot of history, you guys know my background, so I've studied a lot of history and a lot of politics, and a lot of stuff that I'm talking about is the fact that the history that we share with each other for every region, I'm not speaking some conspiracy theory, is actually divergent from what really happened. So in a perfect bubble, AI could potentially take a look at all our documents in all our countries and really see what happened and tell us the truth. Whereas I don't think in some cases it's a bit of a conspiracy, but overall I feel like it's only human nature to hide certain things and, conflicts of interest, things like that. But AI could really bypass this. The problem with that, as Pluto transits Capricorn, is what documents do we feed it, and what documents are redacted, and what documents are withheld. So there's a level of censorship of the information that we're providing AI that could skew the fate of history by not providing it certain documentation that could prove what happened. And I think covertly, this is the war that we're kind of fighting, because there are all of these nations are built on lies. All of these nations are built on omission. And so it's an existential crisis for corporations and nations to provide all that information for an objective AI who can look at everything and say, this is what you did to get this, and this is what you did to get this, and, kind of incriminate everyone. So my question with AI is, what information are we giving it, and how that's censoring the conversation? And I'm really for the idea of just showing it everything so that it could problem solve our collective global problems and really figure out what went wrong, where, and why, and hopefully find some solutions. But people are selfish, and they're probably going to push back against that. So that's Pluto in Capricorn. People in power censoring information that we provide AI, and trying to establish a legal framework that protects their self-interest, protects their monetary interests and privilege in order to maintain the status quo. So that will be interesting to see how that falls apart when Pluto enters Aquarius. I'm all for giving AI everything and letting it do its thing. I think that would be a really cool thing. And that's kind of a part on my next point, which is the overreach of power, right? And so with the financial crisis and the way they dealt with it, was it democratic? They just sort of said, okay, and with the pandemic also, they said, okay, you guys get trillions of dollars, you guys get trillions of dollars. It's like, who were they actually representing when they were doing that? So in every country, this sort of happened. And in policy that they're implementing, are they actually reflecting our individual constituents' needs and wants? And so taking it away from politics, you may be dealing with people for the last 15 years as a theme where they have way more power than you do. Some of that power's unjust, and you can't do anything about it. So that reaches to my next point, is that many of us over the last 15 years have really gotten used to feeling really small, right? So it is that 1984 scenario that we seemingly have the internet and we have this public space when we can talk about, but it's sort of a cynical situation where no matter what you say, and even that public space is highly censored, no matter what you say, you're sort of pushed aside and it doesn't matter anyway. Or you get drowned out with lots of conspiracy theories that are gaslighting the whole conversation of, really realistic criticism of what's going on. So I already kind of mentioned this in terms of double standard, but another theme that has really come up in my perspective, or what I see, is selective benevolence. This is a pretty obscure term. Selective benevolence is a form of triangulation where a person uses the demographics of one group of people to virtue signal about their politics, to get things achieved for themselves, or to even push down on another group. So saying, I'm going to help this group, it's too bad it's not a good thing for group 2 because we really need to help group number 1. And so I'm all for helping all people. However, corporations and governments and businesses and people have really gotten into the habit of this form of triangulation where when they want to achieve something, they exploit human rights in order to achieve what they want by saying we're helping these people and then covertly shaming another group or saying that this group has to miss out on something. And this isn't human rights. This isn't helping people. This is all about securing power for themselves. So this is another covert tactic that I've seen with Pluto and Capricorn. I don't know if I explained it clearly. Yesterday I explained it well, so go watch the other video if you're interested in that. But it's called selective benevolence, where someone triangulates. It's like, let's do it in a toxic family system, right? When there's two kids and a narcissistic parent, and the narcissistic parent helps the golden child out and scapegoats the black sheep as an emotional sink for all the toxicity. That's a form of triangulation, and it's a form of selective benevolence because the golden child gets praise, gets support and kindness, while the black sheep gets treated horribly and becomes the excuse for the narcissistic family system. That can be really applied to the larger scale in terms of your business interactions, your friendships, and our governments. They're doing this as well. It's a form of deflection, and it's a form of virtue signal. It's a covert narcissist tactic to seem like you're a good guy while you're actually manipulating people and hurting people to get your way. Okay, so, and that's produced a lot of loneliness. So many of us have felt small. Many of us have become disconnected from others. And again, this isn't to be pessimistic. This is to highlight how this square between Pluto and Mars is drawing upon the last 15 years from 2008 and saying, these are the things in your life that are really not working in terms of this power, and this is how you need to move forward, okay? And so that has led, I would say, especially in the last year with Lilith in Leo, which brought up a lot of narcissism. Lilith is in Virgo now, so hey girl, hey, we're excited about that. But basically, the level of narcissism and predatory behavior has led to a lot of jadedness, which means that people who are not narcissistic have become jaded and cynical, and they've started to exhibit behaviors that are narcissistic themselves because it's been so long that they are losing hope, and so they're reverting to these terrible behaviors to get ahead or to achieve something. So it's like a social conditioning gone wrong. And so this is my last point about this, and I added it since yesterday. So are victims justified in engaging in violence moving forward? I'm not talking about reactive abuse. This is when someone is hurting someone and then they react inappropriately in the moment. That's something different. And I'm not talking about defending yourself, which is when someone is doing something to another person and that person is acting in self-defense. I'm talking about people seeming to think that if they are victims of something, that they have the right to hurt other people, even people that were not involved in the initial unfair, unjust action that they experienced, and victimizing a third party, for example. This has become a real toxic aspect to what's going on right now. So this is what came up for me this morning in terms of what I see as a pattern for people. And so this may be coming up for you in your personal life or your family life or at work. I think, I talk to people a lot, clients and astrologers. And so one of the things, I really see themes that have emerged, and this helplessness, loneliness, is just so sad to see. I'm here for you about it. I'm Pluto ruled, I'm Mars ruled, so 8th house is kind of my thing. So that's probably where I do really well with clients, looking at the dark things, which is not a social media sort of thing, but like seeing you guys through intense things is what I'm actually good at. And even before I did this, I worked in crisis situations with people that were literally on the street, destitute situations that included intense homelessness and violence and drugs, like the most extreme types of drugs that were around back then. Not fentanyl, but, the previous drugs that were around. And so very complicated situations. So I'm really used to taking a look at the darkness, but for social media purposes, it's not the thing. But when I see this square, I feel it's like the solution rather than the conflict. Even though some of you might be experiencing some type of conflict that's arisen because of the square, it's the solution that's saying you cannot tolerate this abuse of power, and this abuse of power is hurting you, and you have to in some way figure out a solution for it. So that's all I had to say. It's 35 minutes, so I did better than yesterday. So you guys get a long 1.5 hour workshop between the two videos about this. And so let's get into messages for each zodiac sign. So like I said, the opposition between Pluto and Mars has already happened as Pluto was in Aquarius. So don't think that it's really about okay, so let's do a visualization about this energy. So the square itself is referencing the transit of Pluto in Capricorn, right? So this is the stuff you're saying goodbye to of the last year. This is catharsis. This is you taking a look. It's graduation day in high school. You're looking back at high school and you know what everything means now. Hindsight is 2020. So this square is presenting you with themes and important events that are referencing those themes. However, the opposition between Pluto and Mars has already initiated in May of this year, has already initiated a new cycle for you and the evolution of the solution to the previous 15 years. So don't be afraid. That's what I'm saying. Look back at the last 15 years and assess what are these themes around power that you've become subaltern to, that you've been subject to. And then now also at the same time, consider what you want moving forward as your solution as Pluto enters Aquarius. So I think it's pretty great, to be honest. I think it's pretty nice energy. So let's take a look at this energy and assess it for your sun, moon, rising. I know that there are people out there who are suggesting that only to watch for risings. I think that's incorrect. I think wherever you have energy in your chart, it's very important. So for example, if this was my natal chart, well, this is Aries, so less excited. But there is a lot happening in Aries, and there's a lot happening here in Virgo. So if I was born on this day, this is a map for October 5th, then maybe I would watch for Aries and Leo sometimes, because you can draw the map. The astrology is a relationship between all the transits together, and it's true that the rising sign marks the time when the sun was rising over the horizon. But in relation to each other, from the position of the Earth, the planets have a relationship, a geometric relationship to each other that is independent of the rising sign. Do you see? So you can see information about your life based off that geometry, not necessarily contingent on the rising sign. I have a lot of clients who don't know their rising sign, and so you can still do astrology charts without a rising sign by assuming the moon position. You have to assume a little bit where it is, and then also using the sun. You can draw the sun here. Let me show you guys. So in this case, and I'm not trying to argue, I just want to really encourage you guys to trust this process. So this chart isn't suggesting that the sun is rising here, on here in this chart. This is a chart for the sun. So this is a chart with the sun in the first house. And so it's providing a relationship to all the other transits in all the other houses. And that's why for a general reading, I would show you guys this kind of equal houses chart as opposed to a quadrant house or a whole sign house, because I'm not reading for your rising sign. I'm reading for the geometric relationship between the planets at a given time. I know that's really technical, but just trust me on this. Watch for what makes sense, what resonates. I think that there's a lot of nasty politics behind this debate that are frankly below us to engage in beyond that. The only reason that I'm suggesting this and talking to you now is I don't want you to get gaslit into believing that you have to watch for your rising and nothing else is relevant. Everything in the chart is relevant. Everything has a reciprocal relationship to each other, and every single planet can be put in the first house and show you its relationship to all the other transits in the chart. Okay? So I'll repeat that as many times as needed for people to understand. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Okay, so let's take a look now, see. And do watch the full video if any of that was helpful. It turned out to be a workshop, so it's the kind of stuff I love making, so maybe we'll make more in the future. Okay, so let's start with Pisces. Okay, Pisces energy. Is the moon in Virgo today? Or is it in Leo? I don't even know. It's somewhere over there. Okay, so it's opposite to Pisces. It must be in Virgo because we're heading into the Libra eclipse. Okay, and I'll talk about the Libra eclipse separately. So let's just finish one thing and then start the next thing. And so the Libra eclipse, the reason this is very important, this square, because it's so important to the transit of Pluto, it marks the environment or the conditions around which the eclipse happens. The eclipse may ricochet off of what's happening, or it may be its own independent event. So they're two sort of separate things that are happening very near together. So it's possible that one can affect the other, but it's also possible that they will be two separate different energies that are going on in our lives. Okay, so hi Pisces. Let's take a look at your chart and assess what's going on between Mars and Pluto. So for you, and I know this will be a lot of like, I know this because I've read your guys' chart so many times, but this square right here, essentially it's about letting go certain friendships and relationships that have been overbearing on you, Pisces, that you have been living under either the overt imposition onto your personal space or the covert behaviors of frenemies or people who are seemingly your friends but not really your friends in action. So this square may be bringing up themes to do with that, and we're looking back last 15 years. For some of you, this is your entire adulthood, so it's only your point of reference. And so this square it might likely bring up issues of you should let go of someone, or maybe you would be better off if you had changed the nature of your relationship, or an actual ending may be happening for some of you guys right now. But the answer to this is freedom from abuse of power in your personal relationships, in your friendships. Okay, so let's see your cards. We have, look at this. So this is Mars, Sun in Mars, Sun in Gemini. Sorry. I don't know how Mars got in there. Sun in Gemini energy. 10 of Swords. I like the 10 of Swords right now, and the couple pulls I've done for this eclipse and now have come up with the 10 of Swords, which means that certain situations have been addressed and have been dealt with, you know? So they're already done. Dead and done, like this guy in here. Okay, then we have you stressing out about the fact that a situation is over. I think that regret plays a huge head game on you, Pisces. So you decide what the best solution is, and then you look back and say, well, maybe I shouldn't, or maybe I should do it a different way. And then we have the Queen of Swords. So I really think that this is going to take you through a final decision, and a confident decision. The Queen of Swords is you, whether you're a man or a woman, to really feel as though, you know, okay, this person is not good for me. In terms of helping people, I have a rule, I've shared this before, that may help you out in terms of your friendship decisions right now. And that is, I don't help people who are actively trying to hurt me, because it's just illogical to be available to help someone who's hurting you, because if they hurt you, then you won't be able to help other people. Freudian slip, I hope not. But I sense guilt here. I sense regret and kind of a, double, like looking back in the rear view mirror and wondering if the decision you've made is correct. And so this situation is leading you to make a final decision, and Queen of Swords knows exactly why she made the decision she did. So your second guessing yourself, I think, will be addressed in this dynamic, okay? And it doesn't have to be friendships. It could be like friendly people in your environment, bosses, work colleagues, etc. Okay, so next sign is Sagittarius. Hey Sag, let's take a look at your chart. So we're just looking at Pluto and Mars and the last 15 years. This year, there's so many transitions that we're talking about, these long time frames, 10, 15 years, 4 years. It's all happening now. We're really in a transition now. So you have the 11th house Mars squaring a second house Pluto. Okay, so for you, just right off the bat, there could be many different iterations of this energy, but I do feel as though friends may be a catalyst for making money, Sag. So friends may be the way through which you can gain wealth. And over the last 15 years, you may have missed opportunities where people were actively able and capable to help you. So look out for those opportunities now. There may be people coming in who's saying, Sag, let's work together, let's achieve this. And I think you should take it. I think that this might be a transformative moment for you. On the flip side, this might have to do with arguments with friends that destabilize your financial situation. So if your dynamic of this aspect is one of distraction and conflict, then be really aware of that. And whatever your lessons are around conflict with friends that distract you from being financially successful and independent, make sure that you're protecting yourself against that energy. Okay, so let's see. And 11th house is friends, but it's also like people in your community. So if you are acting in a way that allows other people to walk all over you or walk over your dreams, encourage you to step away from what you want. And this is coming up now. So this is a big red flag for you to stop allowing that dynamic to influence you. So there may be success coming to you in this aspect, or there like a call to action, like go and work with your friends if that's what the theme that's emerged, or don't give people in your community so much power on holding you back from pursuing what you need to pursue. Okay, don't have that conflict between community and your personal wealth. Okay, so now let's take a look at your transits or your cards. So we have the 4 of Cups or 10 of Cups. Sorry. We started on Pisces and my head's a little woo-woo here. So we have 10 of Cups, and then we have, which is Pisces Mercury, and then we have King of Cups. Okay, and then we have Page of Swords. This is a dreamboat combination, and it doesn't have to refer to a water sign or a man. It just represents like a very dreamy situation. What this feels like, that you have the opportunity to be swept up or taken in a very positive direction, that there's like emotionally you're receiving everything that you want from someone that could lead to great stability in your life. And I think this is you embarking on a new journey, on a new direction. So someone is giving to you everything that you emotionally need And so you're following that path, and that path is leading you to the Emperor energy, which means great stability in a situation. This is something new, likely something new, and maybe the antidote to a lot of life lessons for the last 15 years. Okay? Thank you guys, and I'll be back with more soon. Okay, next we have Aries. Hi, Aries. So these eclipses are huge for you, even if they're in Libra, because you are the opposite sign to Libra. So you guys get an eclipse early next year. You've already had an eclipse in Aries in April 20th, 2023. But let's take a look how this energy between Pluto and Mars that's setting the stage for the Libra eclipse is affecting you. So for Aries, it looks as though the potential power of your own growth, which is Pluto in the 10th house, is in some way at conflict with people with whom you are partnered with. So this means that your boss could be holding you back from your true potential. And if this is coming up on the 8th, 9th, or even 10th, this is the theme of your life. So you have to assess if this is true for you based on your life experiences. But when we're looking at this, this is what it looks like to me. That people close to you, partners, which could be a boss, a business partner, but even a life partner, like a husband, wife, or a loved one, there could be tension between your relationship with them, what they want you to do, what they're influencing you to do, and the potential that Pluto is giving you in the 10th house. Pluto in the 10th house is one of my favorite transits. When I have clients who come in who have Pluto in their in the 10th house, it's very, very common that they are extremely successful people. And so for you, Pluto in the 10th house is in Capricorn, which would be a sweet spot. Pluto in Capricorn is such a strong transit. And so I think that it's just a lot of opportunity there in your chart. Pluto will be in Capricorn until the end of the year. I think it peaks back into Capricorn for a minute in 2024. But we're really finishing up this transit now. So look back at the last 15 years and ask yourself how your really close relationships with other people have impacted your growth and your potential in your independent self. To be frank, my intuitive take on this is that your potential to grow is so big here. The expansive potential is so huge right now, and your potential to expand, grow, and it's just so huge. So maybe the lesson, it really feels as though possible conflict of interest with people with whom you're really close with may be subtly holding you back from going as far as you can. So if this is your life lesson that you're going to reconcile when Pluto enters into Aquarius, then take note of that. And I think you should really embrace any opportunities that are coming your way, especially right now through the end of the year. Okay, so let's see your tarot cards for this transit. So yeah, new potentials, and it's almost like not quitting a job that you like, because even though you have a great business idea or opportunity. The next message is the Capricorn Devil. So we're talking about Pluto and Capricorn here. There's a great potential for growth in something. That's what I'm feeling. Oh, look at this, King of Pentacles. Wow. So this is like screaming at you, like, go where the money is. Don't hold back. There could be, and then Page of Cups, some kind of emotional awareness. Somebody is telling you something emotional that opens up your emotional awareness to a situation. But that Mars right there, when I see that Mars there, it could indicate fighting. And remember what I said in the intro, that there's a really weird effect on human beings while Pluto was in Capricorn. The weird effect on human beings over the last 15 years is that many people have become isolated from each other. And so Mars in this 7th house is exploring the theme of isolation, separation, conflicts of interest between intimate partners, like where life is asking one to go one way and one to go another way, distractions from people who are closest to us. So when I see these cards, I think you have some really huge potential in the 10th house with Pluto as it finishes its transit. And I think you should really listen to that opportunity as it arises, as it comes up. But I do think silver lining, if you're like freaking out and you're like, Varouche, I didn't actually get to be the multimillionaire I wanted to be. When Pluto enters Aquarius, just as a little foreshadow for you guys, it's likely that your relationships are going to be the key to your success moving forward. So hold tight. If you didn't make it on your own, once Pluto enters into Aquarius, for you Aries or people with lots of Aries placements, relationships with other people will really be a key to your success and your future. Okay, so that's good to know. With astrology, we really want to fight like fatalistic thought that if you don't do this now, you'll never do it. Transits do create the right environment for certain things to happen, but other transits come up later and then you get other opportunities. And so hopefully the right one that's meant for you will happen. Okay, so here is the next message. We have the Leo energy. Okay, hi Leos, meow meow. So I'm so excited to talk with Leos whenever there is a transit right now, because through August, I mean, the crapshoot that you guys went through in August with Venus in Leo, but more Lilith in Leo and all these other things going on. I mean, August was a very intense month for Leos and all of us. So congratulations, you made through it, but let's take a look at Mars and Pluto relationship. So what's really important about this square is that it's actually on the descendant. And so something is, or someone is entering your life at this time over the next year that's going to be very intense. So whoever is entering your life, they're going to bring with them a deep intensity or something of a very provocative nature, something that you are going to deal with, and something that could potentially really help you, but can also come with like extreme things with it. Okay. And so the square between Pluto and Mars right now is really talking about personal relationships. It could be pointing to the fact of how you've been conditioned to react to people. This is a heavy hitter energy. So this is a Pluto on the descendant, to me really signifies Pluto on the descendant signifies a person of really intense power. And that power is neither good nor bad, but it is extreme. Whatever is about them, their characteristics, their personality, is of an extreme nature. And it's forming a square to Mars in your third house. And the third house always, especially if it's close to the IC, is always pointing to themes of childhood and what you were conditioned with when you were young. So it's like, it really is getting into your head, this square. That's what I'm trying to say. And the experiences that you are having are referencing really early experiences in your life, really digging down deep and provoking you into interactions that may be unlike other interactions you usually have. So extreme situations may arise with this square, but those extreme situations will deal with the sixth house in terms of how you live your life and how that peace and how that stability can be disrupted by extreme events in your life and extreme people that you let in. Let me be more specific, because this is very like an archaic example. So let me be very like practical in an example of this. In the sixth house, many Leo people got really used to a certain schedule with Pluto in Capricorn. There's a certain pace to life that has happened as Pluto transited your sixth house. That pace of life was likely created in a way that sort of was imposed on you. So at first it felt chaotic and strange, and then suddenly it became second nature. We're talking about 15 years. And as this transit is finishing up and forming this last square to Mars on the south node and on the IC in your case, that feeling of an experience with something that has a very intense vibration that sort of leaves you dumbfounded almost may arise, okay? That doesn't mean you're helpless, but it means that you may have interactions in a situation that catch you off guard. And then you will, when you get a hold of things, when you figure it out, when you figure out the pace of what's happening, then you'll be like, okay, that's what's up. The only advice that I have for you, Leo, is that if you find yourself in a situation that's really intense right now with someone else or someone coming in and showing you a lot of energy that is triggering for you or triggering your childhood, try to not overreact and try to wait to respond at such a time when it's more comfortable for you, presumably when Mars enters Scorpio on the 12th, so you don't have to wait that long. I would wait till after the eclipse, but that's the general energy. Now, this person coming in doesn't have to come in now. This may happen over the next several years, but I guarantee people who have lots of Leo placements are about to have some really intense person with a big personality or super intense energy enter their life, or several different people of that character. So you're in for it, but not in a bad way. These people may take you really amazing places. You can't win big without risking big, but you want to make sure that you're engaging in that in a safe way, right? So people who you find challenging, but also people who are extremely rewarding. So you may have those kinds of relationships over the next 2 years. Okay, so let's see. So don't be afraid of the devil today, because we're talking about Pluto and Capricorn. So that's the Pluto, and that's that pattern, the repeat pattern day to day for Leo. And then you're moving on from some kind of comfort that was a regular pattern, something that was familiar. But remember, the kind of nuance of this was when this began in your life, it didn't feel like a habit. It didn't feel like a comfortable thing. It felt very uncomfortable. So it's funny that you're now leaving it behind and you're like, oh, that was actually something that, felt very stable. We have the Page of Wands. And then we have the Nine of Pentacles. So like I said, great potential for growth. It is a new adventure in a new direction. Although the North Node is here, which could mean moving far away somewhere, right? But we're talking about here through a relationship, through a connection with others, great potential, access to wealth, access to success, and moving away from a period in your life, a lived experience that sort of was strange, and it was kind of awkward at first, but then it turned out to be something that was what the doctor ordered, so to speak. So I think you're on a new adventure. I think a lot of us are going to get readings like this right now because, like I said, the opposition between Pluto and Mars in Leo and Aquarius already happened in May. So we're underway onto a new adventure. And like I said, the kite was also the start is upon us. The kite began in August, by the way, in the last couple weeks of August. And so we're on our way to the future, and yet we're still saying goodbye to the past. It's almost like getting accepted to university and then like still being in high school and seeing all your friends like in June, when everybody's saying goodbye and you have prom and all these things. Everything's done. You're just waiting to go and finish up old business, okay? And the new direction is going to be very prosperous for you, Leo. Sorry that took a long time to explore, but I think that was an important one. So I don't really time my readings for every single sign. So I'm not picking favorites. If a energy is particularly complex, I'm going to give the sign the extra time to explore it so that people understand what I'm getting at. Capricorn, okay? So if you have like a short answer, it just means that the answer is very direct. And with Leo, it was very nuanced. So I'm not picking on Leos or trying to ignore other signs. Okay, Capricorn. Hey, girl, hey. So we have this Capricorn transit in the first house here. And so for you, I mean, if let's say you're under 35, this has been a wild ride. You've never seen life outside of Pluto and Capricorn as an adult. So this is going to be a huge transformation. But today we're really looking at the square between, well, there's Jupiter, Mars, and Capricorn. For you, this could look at how the outside world shapes your initiative. There's a saying that's coming up a lot right now as a theme. So I have this like little note of different themes that are coming up a lot. And so this isn't like my invention. I heard it online, but I think it's really relevant. It's not one person's invention. It's just like a general meme. But the idea is that people who have issues with boundaries and people pleasers have mistaken, I don't want to mess it up. People pleasers and people who have issues with boundaries mistake assertiveness for aggression. This is so huge, right? So I think that this is something with Pluto in the first house that you may be experiencing, or that may seem very relevant to the last 15 years. So where you have been assertive, people who have issues with owning their feelings and standing up for themselves mistaken that as aggression, and so that may have manifested as obstacles and blocks in your chosen profession, in your career, and where you wanted to achieve things. And so this square between Mars and Pluto in the 10th and the first house might be bringing up those issues from the last 15 years. And so the idea is take back your power. If you are being like unduly aggressive, that's on you. But if you're just minding your business and asserting your rights, then it's such a gaslight when people who project onto you their issues with boundaries and their issues with owning their own assertiveness. They see you being assertive and they say to you, oh, you're being aggressive. So when I see this Mars-Pluto square in your 10th and your first house, I could see you having been gaslit in your career when you were just being strong, because weak people tend to bring down strong people, or try to anyway. And that can get in our head as we're living our life because they're never going to admit it, but that's what they're doing. So and especially if you're under 35, you may be second guessing your own assertiveness because that social conditioning of the people around you projecting onto you their own weaknesses and being intimidated by your strengths, may have conditioned or convinced you to second guess yours. So this square to me with the South Node is asking you, like if you're being discouraged from stepping into your power by your environment, by your career, by your colleagues, by people with whom you interact in the world, maybe ask yourself, is that really fair, or should you just laugh in their face and do better? Because you know that it's coming from fear, it's coming from self-doubt and other things. Now, when we're strong, I have a bit of a harsh character, Scorpio, Aquarius, Virgo, it's Leo, it's not, I do have an intense character, but it's good natured, right? So I don't, right. So I can identify with this. And so I think when we have a strong character, it's also important to express compassion towards other people who aren't so naturally like this. So when I look at this is what it reminds me of, that, you know, assert yourself, but also the question comes up how you assert yourself, and make sure that you're, some people do not have the constitution, or maybe they have a series of experiences that prevents them from being able to be that way and be strong right now. So you have to, as your strength needs to be framed within compassion to their shortcomings, right? So you have to just sort of understand that that's them and this is you, and you don't have to convince them to be strong. Draw your personal boundaries and defend yourself from unfair behavior, but also don't look down on them for having less or having less, right? So this square between Mars and Pluto may emerge as a question of your own authenticity and being true to you, but also in relation to other people and how you should conduct yourself. So know the company that you're in, speak to your audience rather than just asserting yourself. And especially if you have been attacked in the past, then you may have a natural knee-jerk reaction to get defensive. And especially if you have a strong character, or the last 15 years has produced a strong character in you, then maybe make sure that strong character is not compounding the aggressive environment that you're in. Does that make sense? So be assertive, but also be aware of other people so as not to be overly despotic or impose that assertiveness onto them too much. So make sure your boundaries are clear, okay? So be clear on your boundaries. Okay. I hope I explained that well. Let me know if you're a Capricorn and that makes sense. Okay, or if you have something add to this. Okay, so let's see the next message. We have the 9 of Wands. And then we have the Queen of Pentacles. So this is your rest. And then we have the Strength card, Leo. And then we have personal and insight. So that's what I was trying to get to. It's like that, you know, once you've been through the storm and all the experiences, the insight, the High Priestess lives, her intuition is strong, but there's also a lot of lived experience from which she draws her conclusions. So she's been through it. She knows the feelings. She knows what she's looking at. And that's why she's bringing so much wisdom. And so you've been through your life experiences and you have this elevated view of what happened. There's a shutting down energy here, shutting down and possibly going two separate ways. A Queen of Pentacles, possibly a Virgo, Taurus, or Capricorn. This could be you, maybe some water energy. This does not have to be a female or a male. You apply it to the person that this is relevant to in your life. But I do feel like there's an energy of shutting out. At first, I thought you were the one shutting out. So in some instances, this may be you shutting out others. However, I also feel like maybe you have been shut out by others by sticking to your truth. Queen of Pentacles is all about, like, this is where I'm at and come join me. If, like, the Vesica Pisces symbol, if your interests overlap with mine, then let's work together. But I'm not going to go outside of my bubble to compromise my best interest, which is really smart in certain relationships to know that boundary and stick to it. And so at first there may be questions whether or not you pursued the right path, or you may feel that you were locked out of something, kept from something. However, with time, I think you'll realize that it was for a good reason. So for example, if you were locked out of a promotion at work, because we're talking about Mars in the 10th house, if you were locked out of a promotion at work, you may feel like, oh shoot, why did this happen? But in time, you will see that that promotion was not good anyway, or in time, once you get some distance from the situation, you will see how that was not a good situation. So you will be relieved. You will have your insight. You will have you may come to realize that whatever you've been locked out for would have diminished your strength instead of empowered you, even if you feel right now that you've been left out of something. Okay? So that's the message for you. Capricorn, I'll be back with more, especially with the eclipse reading in Libra that's coming up, which probably will have a lot to do with this. I'm focusing on the square, but this Libra eclipse, and I talked about this a lot yesterday, so go check it out in the comments. This Libra eclipse will in some way touch upon what we're talking about today, but I really wanted to talk about the relationship between Pluto and Mars as Pluto went through Capricorn. Okay, so speaking of the devil, hey Libra, sun, moon, and rising, welcome to your chart, your time. I'm excited to talk to you today. So you have an eclipse coming up. Just as a foreshadow, I'll only mention this for Libra because, well, it's happening in your sign. So the eclipse is autonomous from this square. However, because they're so close together, the two different events, it's likely that they will work off of each other. So there will be like ping pong, one thing will affect the other. Okay, I think you see my point. The thing about this eclipse that I think that's the most gnarly that's coming up, it's at 21 degrees of Libra. So this is a chart for October 5th. So just imagine it's over here somewhere. The gnarly part of this eclipse is that Aries is conjunct the North Node, and Mars is, even though it's in Scorpio, it's really close to the South Node as well. And so earlier on, I think in September, a lot of people were saying, oh no, was it the Aries new moon or something? They were saying Mars conjunct the South Node, all this stuff will happen. And I think that that's in reference to this new moon eclipse. It was a full moon in Aries, right? So it was a full moon in Aries a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people online were referencing this transit as the huge event, whereas I think the relationship between Aries and Mars is actually this eclipse. And I think that relationship in and of itself may produce a substantial event in the world or in our lives. So stay away from major conflict, stay away from potentially explosive situations, or where people may have knee-jerk reactions, where people may turn violent. Just stay out of conflict if you can. And especially true for Libra. For Libra, it's very important because it's the South Node transit. So literally your subconscious intentions, so things that you cannot control, subconscious is not something you can identify or control, may motivate you to react a certain way. And with Mars being so close to the South Node, even though it's in Scorpio, when this eclipse happens, may provoke you to have a huge reaction. And since Mars is forming a square to Pluto, it's all very visceral, which means that you may react in a way that is unplanned. So as I would really recommend that anyone who has Libra placements stay out of trouble and get far away from where you see conflict. Don't have any heated discussions. Don't engage in unnecessary banter. And so but let's go back to this square. So a situation may be arising that may be feeding you right into this. And so make sure that you're consciously aware of the potential of what may happen. So just make sure that you stay out of the way of heated interactions, Libra. All of us should do this, but your transits are the most intense for this. Okay, so the square between Mars and Pluto, and what the theme is for you, this is like family issues. This is about identifying yourself in your family. I would say you in a group of people that you're responsible to. So whether it's your partner or whether it's your parents or whether it's an extended family dynamic, the relationship between you and your family right here feels very claustrophobic. So I do intuitive astrology a lot. You guys know that, right? So sometimes my take is more from the intuition than traditional interpretations. I just use it whenever I feel it's the right thing to do. And so when I'm looking at this transit for the last 15 years, there may be a theme for some Libras in which you get lost in the politics of family. You know how every family has sort of a hierarchy, especially extended families, like this group means this. It's just like a clan, or it is a clan. It's some kind of they have an internal relationship to each other. You as a Libra may have some kind of pattern in relation to that, and that dynamic between family members may be positioning you a certain way. And so this square right now may be your desire to push out of that, especially if it's something that's not helpful to you. So if you have an overbearing family, Libra, and this is happening in your chart, whether it's between you and your partner or you and extended family, stay out of their way. But the underlying stay out of their way to avoid conflict, right? You still want to deal with what's happening. And so what I see for this is Mars square Pluto, real deep. Remember when I said that this square is actually bringing out themes of the solution to your problem of Pluto in Capricorn? And so for you, what I think this square really means is that in some way you're trying to set yourself free from the despotic, dystopic influence of family members, whether they are there or not. And I'm not saying you're some victim, but it really feels as though the nature of power within your family and the abuses of power you're really rebelling against with this Mars in the first house. So I fully support you in pushing back against any unjust power, abuses of power. All I'm saying is with this eclipse coming and this square right now, be very careful how you do it. It's better to take note of what you want to do, identify the problems, and then maybe sometime after the eclipses, move forward. Maybe see what the other eclipse in Scorpio that's coming up teaches you, right? So maybe wait and see until early November to see, what you're dealing with. So don't be the first to react, but I think it'll be very clear for you to see your relationship with your family members right now in that 15-year pattern since 2008, and identifying like they're really not letting me be me, So let me be explicit and give you an example. It's like a person who's gay who can't come out to their family because they're bigots, and there is a family system of denial, and this person right now realizes like that's actually suffocating me and I can't participate with them in their unjust system that benefits them at my expense, and now I have to really address this issue. So these issues get very complicated and it's different for everyone, but this is about you, Libra, looking at the other people in your family and saying, I really need to get out of this agreement because this agreement isn't good for me. I need to focus on myself, right? Reinforce myself. Okay. Good. I'm glad I did this. I was like, I have to do this all sign because the video I did yesterday I love, but I think we're talking about very important transits. I think this square is very important, and I explained why yesterday. So even though these squares happen, like once in a while, like twice every year and a half or something. But anyway, so they're pretty frequent, but this specific one is closing out the final iteration of the conjunction between Pluto and Mars. And it's kind of the last event in a series of 15 years. So, and Pluto and Mars have such an intense relationship to each other. So it's interesting. So yeah, family, 10 of Pentacles. See, this energy of Pluto in the 4th house is talking about wealth and power within a family. So it's like, let's take our example, for example, somebody who's queer, who wants to tell their family, but the family is prosperous and successful, so they've never said anything to jeopardize that relationship that's giving them prosperity otherwise. But they may have come to realize that even though there is material prosperity within the family, nobody's actually accepting them. And so they have to assert themselves and tell their family their true nature and have that full respect. So it's something like that. It can be a variety of things. It's just the first thing that came to mind. Okay, so 10 of Pentacles. So there may be a lot of prosperity that's encouraging you to maintain the status quo, or your family is very successful, but you have your own desire. You're pushing the family to grow. And even if it's hard like that, if it is an LGBTQA plus issue, and you're really challenging the norms of your family, and you know that some of that's going to be hard, the world is saying that there's an expansion here. So even if it's a difficult thing to do, you're still the catalyst for growth and potential for the entire family. Even if you're not going to be accepted, or even if there is going to be conflict and lack of respect and it's going to be painful, you're still the catalyst here. It's saying the catalyst for expansion and growth, the World card. And then we have the 8 of Swords, a hard situation to navigate. It's not easy. Let me explain it a different way. The comfort of the status quo that you're participating in, Libra, and Pluto's transit of 15 years, there's a real comfort in the way things are done. Challenging that is really inconvenient, the 8 of Swords, but there is a solution. So it's like finally deciding that thing that needs to be addressed now. And it's kind of like shattering the comfort of your family. And then you find something new within that. So some of you may not see the solution yet. And so what this Page of Cups is suggesting is there is a solution. I love the 8 of Swords, you guys, so much, because she can't see anything, but there is in many decks, this is the tower, this is the castle. It's not a tower, it's a castle in the background. So there's always a solution with the 8 of Swords. It's saying there's a hard road ahead and you don't know what the answer is, but there is an answer there. And so this is the answer. So even if you right now don't see what the answer is in your circumstances in the 4th house, it could be family, but it can be also you live in a house and you need to leave, you need to move or sell it or whatever else, and now is the time that you really want to act on that. So it may be home, family dynamics. And so this is reassuring you that even though you may not see the answer right now, the answer is coming. Okay, so I really like this square for you. I think it's stand up for yourself square for Libra. So yeah, good luck with that. Okay, so next sign is Gemini. Hey Gemini, let's take a look at this. So a lot of messages have been coming up about Mars in Gemini. So Mars was in Gemini for how many? 8 months. So that was a huge transit for you this year. And so even though this square isn't necessary, well, it's the midpoint, isn't it? No, it's not. Well, if your placements are on the cusp of Taurus, then it's a midpoint. So if you're a really early Gemini, this is the midpoint between this aspect between Mars and Pluto. So that's huge. That's a really big personal awakening. So this is only true for people who have placements at the end of Taurus, beginning of Gemini. The aspect between Mars and Pluto is, am I right? Hold on. Am I right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so this is the midpoint. So if you have early placement Gemini transits, I think that some of you are really coming into your own, like an awakening. This is a transit of awakening for you. Something about your character is really coming out in a positive way. something about you is really coming to the surface. Like you're finding new strength and all of that. So I really like that there. But let's just talk about the square itself. It's the 5th house to the 8th house. So this is the action of daring to try something new in an environment in which there has been considerable change and constant destruction for 15 years. Now, you guys know me. I like talking about transits explicitly in the past. I don't like telling you guys ahead, there's, destruction ahead for you guys, because I think that's a projection. But looking back at the past, at the last 15 years of Pluto and Capricorn in the 8th house, there may have been a consistent lack of stability and constant towers in your life, and especially in that time period, 2019 through 2021. So there may have been like an intense instability that you have been dealing with. And so Mars squaring that, especially in the 5th house with this Libra South Node and the eclipse that's coming up, to me signifies the brave action of doing something that you enjoy, the 5th house, asserting your desire in a situation in which so many desires have been broken and kept from you time and again. So time and again, you have put energy towards what you truly want, Gemini, and it really blew up in your face and it really set you back. And here in this energy is the defiant energy of, I'm going to try again. I love this. 5th house is romance. This is you saying, I love this person. All these relationships really were terrible and took energy out of me, but I'm going to really try. I'm going to really try. This is you putting effort into what you desire in the face of possible destruction. And 15 years of experiences that have conditioned you to be so familiar with things breaking down. So actually, I've done a lot. So we're halfway through a little bit. We have 5 left. So we are halfway through. So looking at all the other transits, what I would say, looking at this relationship right now between Mars and Pluto, I think that it's one of the best ones I've seen. Many of these messages for you guys have been really good, but this one in particular sets my heart on fire when I see it, because I love the underdog championing and overcoming scary things. So Pluto in the 8th house could be potentially very scary. Pluto in the 8th house could be like a really financially abusive partner who holds all your money away from you, and you have this ongoing legal battle with them, and they're holding your resources. It could represent, like I said, cycles of destruction. Everything you start keeps on breaking down. And I'm only mentioning this now because Pluto is leaving this transit. So this 15-year transit is coming to an end. You're out of this dynamic. But Mars here is that daringness, especially with the South Node. South Node in the 5th house is an underrated transit. South Node in the 5th house is all about tapping into your past lives, or just really deep down in and evoking out of that place that is so distant a deep truth. It's like embracing a passion you never allowed yourself to have, but something that is fundamentally close to your heart. And Mars here is bravery, like a lot of bravery to go after your desire. I love this transit. I have to give you guys number 1 for now. When I'm looking at this, I just think it's really the hero that's overcoming great adversity here. So congratulations, guys. I hope you feel empowered by this. And I hope that you're looking around in your environment for love. 5th house is love, right? So love. Oh, I'm excited. I love this. Willingness to wait. So maybe, okay, so here's another download. This is more intuitive astrology. When I'm looking at this, is a love partner asking you to wait in a situation you are not convinced about, but you love them, like there's no question. And it is scary to wait for them because time may not allow you to be together in the end. So you feel like you're risking a lot with the waiting. So this is the call to action. Like, are you going to wait for the person you love, even though it may not work because time may draw you away from each other? It's very romantic. 6 of Pentacles, Moon and Taurus. Oh yeah, I love these transits. And then we have you, Gemini. Look at you. Bring them hell. Okay. So Knight of Swords, Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra. Very airy Knight of Air. So this is Mars, right? Bravery, going with bravery, going after something you truly want. This is confrontation. This is going after what you want, even in if the potential is catastrophic. It's looking at the tower and saying, I'm going to go there anyway because that's what I really want, and I'm going to risk it all. So this is like the hero moment. You can make a movie about this. This is the big, shebang. So Gemini, whatever's going on for you, challenge the status quo, challenge yourself, and see what comes of it. Okay? But use your discretion. Okay, so Aquarius next, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So here we go. Here's our golden child, Aquarius. Let's take a look at what's going on for you in your chart. Okay, so Pluto's entering Aquarius. Are you guys excited? Like, this is going to be such a intense, spotlights on you sort of thing. I hope spotlights on you for good things instead of bad things. I think that will be the theme for Aquarius. Like you get the spotlight on the good and the bad and different times over the next 22 years while Pluto is in Aquarius will highlight like your strengths and your weaknesses, and that includes Aquarian moons, which I am. So yeah, I think that might be a part of the main theme. It's like your best qualities will be under the spotlight, but also some of your most seedy qualities, right? Okay, so let's take a look at the square before we move on to that. The square is on your ascendant, so that's a huge deal. And it's a square between your 9th house at your MC and your ascendant. Huge transformation. It's likely that there is a massive conclusion about life that you're coming to terms with. You're emotionally, I wouldn't say battered, but you've been through a lot, and there is an intense catharsis as to what is going on in your life. There's an intense coming to terms with the last 15 years. Those themes are right there in front of your face, and a lot of things people don't know about. There's a lot that you're dealing with in the private space because Pluto is in your 12th house. So this isn't necessarily things that are out in the open. And so Mars with the South Node here, you're confronting a lot of Aquarians through this square, I think, may be ready to take on a completely different perspective on the world. This is coming into realization. So when we are triggered, when we are upset, this is not a good time for change because we're emotionally dysregulated, and it's difficult to change when you're emotionally dysregulated. This is after the dysregulation comes to an end and you're free and clear and you're setting your sights in a particular direction. And you're clear enough to take a look at the situation with some distance, all the situations of the last 15 years, and especially the last 2.5, 3 years, and say, that's right, this is not going to work for me. This kind of disposition, this life that I'm building for myself, this life that I'm involved in is not going to work for me, and I'm going to choose a different path. So this square is motivating you to have a change of mind, which is going to be one of the biggest personal changes, I would say, in your lifetime. When I'm looking at this seems like you sitting there and really thinking about your life and saying, and it's not necessarily just your personal stuff, like about yourself. It's about the environment that you're in, what you permit in your life, what you don't allow in your life, where you spend your time, who you are. This is you deciding a new master plan. And for some people, this will take you completely left field. You will be a completely different person than what they are expecting from you or of you. Okay. So I think you're in for a huge change. The transition for Aquarius is another one of these transitions that's just huge. So good luck. But this is really about like taking an assessment of what happened and coming into the realization that, you know, you have to change your life. It's that critical moment when you realize you have to change your life. And the change, just so you're not worried, is going to lead you to immense success. So whatever you decide right now is your new path, is going to lead to immensely successful life moving forward. And in terms of getting away from that negative spotlight, moving forward, I would really recommend that if you do have, we all have good things and bad things in our personality, but it's really good practice for Aquarian types to really try to empower your positive sides of your personality. Now, if you're really good at living well, having, like, being a good ruler, Pluto in your first house, then you are going to see the benefits of that. You know, I'm not into like this mirroring rhetoric. I think that it's pretty gaslighty and toxic. However, I think that it's fair to say with Pluto in the first house, the waves that you make will really splash back onto you. So it's a good idea to avoid that negative side of things, to just not be negative and not do negative things. So just stay in your lane. Here is the next message. We have the Page of Wands, Sag, Leo, or Aries, secondary transits in Earth, Virgo, Taurus, Capricorn. Then we have Jupiter in Pisces. And then we have the King of Cups, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. And then we have the Three of Wands. Okay. So this could be you, actually, Aquarius, whether you're a man or a woman. Like I said, Page of Wands is showing up everywhere for all of us because, like I said, with that opposition between Mars and Pluto, when Mars was in Leo in May 2023, we began this Aquarius transit of Pluto in Aquarius already. So we're already on some new journey, whether externally something has happened yet or not, but it's coming. And for you, it's likely that's going to involve other people, specifically a very significant relationship. It's going to bring you great joy. So be excited about that. I've talked about this a lot, but just in case somebody's new, Aquarius has been on a low point energetically, and now you're heading up. So it's almost like presents coming, and you're like, oh, what else is coming? What else is coming? So you'll, after a lull, energetic lull, you're going to get a lot of positive things coming your way. There's also a big vision, big picture. Like that's what I was saying about becoming regulated after a period of regulation. There's that clarity, you know, all the things have happened and now you're thinking about them with some emotional distance, and you can see how everything worked together, and now you feel like your heart's opening up and the potentials are there. So this is a very big picture thing. And so if you have lots of Aquarian placements, this is the time for you to take a look at your life and say, okay, like, where is this going? Where is my vision taking me? And don't be afraid to change your vision to what your instincts are saying to go a different direction. Okay? So good luck and congratulations. I really like your transits, by the way. The Pluto in the first house is going to be great. Don't be afraid, Aquarius. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so here is the next message. We have Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Okay, Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Let's take a look at your square between Pluto and Mars. So I guess Cancer is getting another one of these huge changes. We've talked about this a lot. 15 years ago, Pluto entered your seventh house. This has created a lot of interesting dynamics in relationships. This square in the fourth house, I think it's about the connection to the people that you're having relationships with that's emerging. I think a conflict of interest as you were dealing with all of these interesting dynamics between you, yourself, and other people that you were exposed to, which is the seventh house. It's like these bullies that you had relationships with. The tying in fact was the fourth house in a way, because you wanted someone close to you. You wanted a close connection. And so the square between Mars and Pluto created that. And so it sort of bound you to certain relationships that you potentially, your motivating factor for staying around bullies and bullying types of people was the fact that you wanted a relationship, that you wanted closeness, you wanted family. And that is, you know, people always say this when they go through difficult situations, when they've been exploited in relationships, or when someone treated them bad, like, what did I do bad? And the answer is often, you didn't do anything bad. You were healthy in an unhealthy situation. And the people who were treating you in an unhealthy way were manipulating your healthy reactions. So it's not so much about changing your healthy reactions, but more so changing the way that you allow other people to treat you. So it's oftentimes not so much like that you did something bad, that caring about other people is not a bad thing. And so it's their problems that sort of made the situation bad. So it's on you not to change your caring nature, not to change your desire for a relationship or family, but rather change the, how do I say this? Change the way that you accept and manage that in relation to the dynamics around you. And it's true that you've been in an extreme environment in which that's been more hard than ever. For 15 years, you were dealing with dynamics that were extremely hard. This was one of the hardest transits for any sign. So if you have Cancer placements, this was a very, very difficult transit for 15 years, which is an intense transit. So right here with Mars with the South Node is that connection, is learning all those life lessons about power struggles in relationships and despots and bullies and unfair relationships. And yet Mars with the South Node is challenging you to build that relationship anyway, to allow that, to go after your desire for love, to go for the desire for a loving connection. So it's like very, again, bravery is part of the transit here, like stand in the face of the potential threat, you know. So you might be in a situation in which you're challenging your environment, Cancer, with the end of this transit, with everything that you've experienced in up until now in terms of relationships. You're really challenging your environment by saying, you know, I actually do want a family. Even though these conditions are really crap, I really do want a family, and I'm really going to try my best to create that, provided it's safe. And you've had all the lessons about safety and fair relationships, so you're an expert going into now, and you're like, okay, I've had my lived experience. I've really, you know, I know what to do now. So you don't have to be afraid, because you know that you're going to draw the line when you have to. So you don't have to be afraid with opening yourself up to a relationship, seeking connection with family, confronting people when they're treating you bad. It's all within your power and your ability to manage, right? You set the pace of everything. You don't have to be underneath their rules and their ways of doing things. You can say, I'm going to build this family this way, and I'm not going to listen to the imposition of other people as a driving force on how to do that. I will be the leader in this situation. Maybe that's the best way to say it. I will be the leader in this situation. 10 of Wands, and then we have the 2 of Swords. Difficult situations, Cancer. And the nice thing about Pluto entering into your 8th house is that there will be a lot of potential to get rid of things moving forward. There will be a lot of potential to, Death card, right? Change. So hold on tight. It is a transition of about 1.5 years, so you have to be patient. 5 of Pentacles. Well, the dynamic is that there are things that are pulling you in and to express compassion in order to provide for other people and join in common grounds with other people. With the 10 of Wands, what it appears to me is that there's an overwhelming burden that you are dealing with in relation to family or relationships. But there's certain things about the situation that you don't know. So it seems like the burden is born out of not knowing something. Something is being kept from you. And in fact, I think that some of you already know some of that. I think that the veil of not knowing is going to be lifted. And I think that you will be presented with something that is going to change your opinion, that is going to help you understand, and the burden that you're feeling is going to be lifted, and you're going to be motivated by caring, by help. So it's, for example, if you feel like a member of your family or a partner is weighing on you too much, and you're like, why is this person overbearing? Why is this person putting so much pressure on me? When you find out a truth that you don't know right now about their circumstances, that will change everything, and you'll gladly help them. So once you understand why they are leaning on you so much, or why you understand the context of the situation, that burden becomes a willingness to help, because you're like, oh, okay, I understand this situation now. This is much easier for me to deal with. So something like that may be coming up. You're always helping, Cancer. That's not going to change. You're just going to keep helping people, but just make sure you do it in a modified way that works for you, that's healthy for you. Okay, so Scorpio, let's take a look at the Scorpion King. Okay, Scorpios, let's take a look at your chart. Okay, so the next eclipse isn't in Scorpio. We have an eclipse. We're done with the Scorpio eclipses. We still have one in Taurus in your 7th house at the end of October. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be a full moon eclipse. Okay, well, we'll see about that. Okay, so for now, and it's, when I say that, I don't mean that in like a terrible way. I think it's likely that it's going to change something in terms of your relationships for the better. And it's likely going to eliminate certain obstacles for a relationship for you. So things may change. So don't be worried about that eclipse. It'll be a good one. But let's take a look at the square between Pluto and Mars. Okay, in the 12th house. This is visceral. This is visceral. This is the subconscious connected with early childhood development. So any of you who are psychologists, nurses, healthcare field, you know this dynamic. Teachers, you know this dynamic. It's because you've studied it. It's the intense connection between deep in the 12th house and bright on the IC. This means that in situations like this, and I think I've had this talk with Scorpios before, we're dealing with things that are deep in the you cannot judge your subconscious because you can't define what it is. That's the nature of the subconscious. It's the nature of the id. It wouldn't be subconscious if it was conscious, right? And likewise for conditioning, we can analyze, people in therapy in the 40s and 50s, they were in therapy for like 30 years. They would go to their therapist for 30 years, and people who had money, that they would spend their lives, and even now people do this for 30 years every week, going to see a therapist, people who have the means to do that. And that's a great exercise of self-inquiry and understanding, really understanding what your motivations are. But at some point, it becomes very pedantic to understand every single nuance of why you are doing what you're doing. And the reason I'm saying this is that combination between a subconscious reaction and something alongside your IC, it's so underneath the surface, it's so connected to your early childhood years that worry and anxiety on managing that or understanding how that's going to present itself in your life it's sort of a futile exercise, which I'm saying don't worry about it. Just observe the things that are happening, Scorpio, and be at peace with what happens. Observe the things happening around you like a life lesson or like some kind of insight, and then draw your conclusions based on the things. Don't worry about how you're going to react. See your life right now as some kind of a movie. It's representative of what's going on in your subconscious. It's representative of what happened to you as a child that conditioned your reactions and the way you think. But I don't think that it's something you should express anxiety for trying to understand. So I think this is really nuanced. And the funny part is that the midpoint of this is the cusp of the 8th house. So 8th house is the house that you rule, the 8th house, the house of death, change, and transformation. You're having a very deep, visceral experience here. And I know this is abstract, but it's going to be different for everyone. It is your vagus nerve. It is your deepest subconscious expression. So pay attention to your outside world. Don't be worried about it. Just really try to study the things that are happening now and the changes that you're experiencing, more like a personal self-study or a personal understanding of what your subconscious mechanisms are. And again, you're one of these signs, and I said this to Libra, but I think this is true for you. I would really encourage you to, if you are involved in a high pressure situation or a high stress situation, that you be very careful at what your reactions are, because you may not be fully aware of what you're expressing, because so much of this is involved with the subconscious. So you may think that you're being neutral or not being problematic, but here in the 12th house, you could be doing things that you're not even self-aware are problematic. So if you are involved in a situation that involves a lot of stress and whatnot, then try not to engage through the eclipse in it. Just observe. Very passive energy here. And with the South Node with Mars, something from the subconscious could be rising up, such as a new reaction or a new take. So rather than being worried about it, just make sure that you have some emotional distance and learn about yourself here. Great. This is a huge transit now that I'm looking at it. Huge. Okay. You guys know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this on Instagram. I will look, and this is for all signs, I will look at all the iterations in which Mars and Pluto formed a square in Libra and Capricorn over the last 15 years. And I'll make a post on Instagram that will give you all those dates. So you can, because I just realized Scorpio may need it. What that's going to do is you can look back in your life on those specific dates and reflect on any life events that happened that are parallel to this final square that's happening. Okay? So you can use that chart that I'll make for you guys, the list of all the dates in which Pluto and Mars formed squares in the last 15 years, and look back on that date to try to understand something about yourself that's now culminating. Okay? So very, very powerful square for you, Scorpio. So I'll post that on Instagram. Okay, so let's see the next message. So we have the Queen of Cups, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. And then we have the World card. And then we have the Ace of Swords. Somebody's sending you a message from far away. You don't have to read tarot to understand that. Something's calling on you. And then why are you stopping? Ooh, boom, here we go. So what's stopping you? 9 of Wands. And again, don't feel anxiety about what's stopping you, but try to understand it. We all have barriers to action or inaction. And if we have inaction in a situation, means that we don't do something that we may think that we should or have to do, sometimes, like, so for example, like, how about, there's always a reason for it. So what I'm saying is, like, let's say in a situation, you should make friends, okay? But something in you is telling you not to go out, you don't like it, and it doesn't feel good to you right now. And you're like, no, I'm not going to go anywhere, and there's a block. But then you question yourself, and you're like, why am I not going out? Why am I not opening myself to new friendships? There may be a deeper reason why that's happening, and so there is some point or truth to the idea that you shouldn't challenge that blockage. So this isn't necessarily, that was just an example, but there's something that's blocking you, but I'm really tempted to say that you may feel as though you need to get over it or get past it in some way, but maybe it's there for a reason, like the subconscious, right? These are huge things. So for example, a person who likes people but finds relationships really emotionally exhausting may not do well in a job or a public situation where they have to interact with lots of people all the time. And they may think to themselves like, oh yeah, I really have to overcome that within myself. But it's often true that when we try to push through certain things, we only learn why that barrier was there in the first place. So don't give up on yourself with regard to that. Okay. So there's a barrier. There's definitely a call to action for you, Scorpio. Something from far away is calling your name and saying, come here and expand. But you're asking yourself, there's resistance here. And so you should watch this situation. The encouragement here is very positive. Somebody's saying, come here. This is going to be good. Like really good message. But the 9 of Rods is saying that there's a resistance. Make sure you understand why you're stopping this energy or why that energy is being blocked. It's almost like let's frame it in terms of this tarot spread. Somebody is inviting you to go somewhere and you're just like, no, I really shouldn't go right now. There's something within you that's guiding you to make that decision. And it's maybe not a complete no, but it may be a delay for later. So this feels like a very warm invitation, a very happy one, something that you truly want. But there's something within you that's telling you from the subconscious, from your early childhood education or conditioning, trust your instincts on this one. Really understand what's going on. The other message that I have or advice for you for this transit is trust your instincts. Don't doubt your instincts right now, even if they logically don't make sense. Okay? So just go with your instincts right now. Don't overreact, but be very true to what your gut is telling you. Okay? So let's see the next sign. We have Taurus. Okay? Tauruses, you guys are in for an eclipse. Woohoo, the last one. So okay, we'll talk about the eclipse a little bit later. So the eclipse is coming up on October 28th, I believe. But right now, I want to talk about Mars square Pluto right at the top of your chart, which I think is kind of it is a big deal. So whenever Pluto's at the top of the chart, I think that's really significant. You're fortunate for the next few years as this is happening. There's something in your immediate environment that's a distraction to the big picture. And the first sign that I read for, I think Gemini, no, Aries, Aries had a very similar kind of message of distraction and interference. Something in your everyday life, something that you do on a day-to-day basis, is a distraction to a bigger opportunity or something bigger in the world. And this is really coming up with this square. And so I think with this square, you should really pay attention to that and see what is the theme of the interruption that you're experiencing. Because if you modify what that interruption is, if you understand it and are able to remove it or change it, then that's going to empower you to reach higher over the next couple years. So if there's some, like, so let's say this in a practical way. Sometimes I get very abstract, so let's say this in a practical way. So what I'm saying is, maybe your environment eats up your time. Maybe your commute to work and everything you do, you're in the car for 2 hours a day and you don't have enough time for yourself to grow beyond where you're at. And so there's distractions, or maybe people are weighing on you. People you're interacting with every day constantly want something for you, which is holding you back from reaching further. So this is like a reminder that you're going to have to modify, when Pluto enters Aquarius, something about your life to, if you want to go further. So basically, start working out at home as opposed to going to the gym, because maybe the gym is 2 hours away, there and back, and that eats up. I used to spend a lot of times at yoga studios and gyms, and the problem with that is that if you do it a lot, like more than 3 days a week or 4 days a week, before long you're spending half your life in a gym or a yoga studio, and it adds up. And you can try to do things to try to modify it in some way, but it really is a long commitment. So as an example, because it is the 6th house for you, Taurus, like, is something eating up your time that maybe if you do it at home, it'll save your time and allow you more freedom to expand. And I think this square is bringing that issue up. The first intuitive thing I saw or thought when I saw this transit, it was people. So people asking you for favors, asking for your time, which is actually holding you back from a larger expansion. Okay, so people getting in the way, and so you need to figure out how to manage that, I think, moving forward. And I think that's going to be the theme, you know, when Pluto enters Aquarius. Okay, so Knight of Swords, Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra, and then the Devil card, and then the Death card. Ooh. I sense instability from the people around you, Taurus. 4 of Pentacles. You're like, how do I say it? I can't show you guys but I'm like huddled down. You're huddling down to protect yourself. And this Knight of Swords, Page of Swords, is like tons of questions. You know, I don't know if you've worked in an office with someone who just asks questions every 2 seconds. So this person might be, and with good intentions, I'm not saying they're a bad person, but I think that it's leading to some kind of imbalance in your 6th house. And so this is you, 4 of Pentacles. It's like hunkering down with what you have in order to protect it. I think that this is a spread of something open-ended, something what you allow into your life, or maybe a friend is texting you too much. There's interruptions. That's all I'm saying. Those interruptions are causing delays or limitation of your potential. They're getting in the way. And so there's a change and there's a hunkering down. I don't think it's going to end on this, but I think for now, this is the road you're going to take until you find another solution. Maybe your kid's texting you every 5 minutes and you don't know what to do. So you may actually, you know, set some boundaries around that, and really put up your walls, put up your boundaries. So just, I would say, you know, I don't like this card as the outcome, in the sense that I think that there's more to it. I don't think anybody should have to like shut down things in order to achieve what they want to. So I do think that this is an intermediary energy. This is what you need to do for a short period of time in order for things to grow for you and expand, Taurus. But I think that that's the road that you're going to take. Okay. So I'm not about closing things down, or, you know, kind of shutting things out. Often leads to problems in the long term, but in the short term, medium term, I think here the answer is changing the nature of a relationship. The Devil can represent like behaviors that are like not healthy, like wasting time for 6th house, right? Wasting time or whatnot. So you're trying to address a behavior that's not productive or not helpful, and it's something that's setting you back. And so I think that there will be some kind of a drastic change, and you'll shut down for a while, and then later on you'll decide on something else. Okay, so let's see the next path. Virgo, of course, I knew it was Virgo. Virgo's last, which I love. You guys know that I love reading Virgo's last, right? It's like my cherry on top of the cake. I'm a Virgo, if you guys don't know, whoever is watching. Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for watching. I've not been reading comments, but I'll read them later. Okay. Hey Virgos, let's take a look at this shit show. Okay, so how's it going, you guys? So I think Virgos are my most loyal audience. So when you guys go last, I get a lot of like increase in watch time because you guys hang out through the whole thing to watch yours. Other signs like give up halfway, but Virgos watch with me to the end. But you saw me shuffling. This is not orchestrated, of course. Okay, so let's talk about the square between Pluto and Mars for you, Virgo. Well, this could be a couple different things. This could be the money is affecting what you truly want to do in your life, Virgo, and that's a theme for the last 15 years. Financial limitations, and with Mars with the South Node, it's one of several things. It's the need to save and conserve, the visceral understanding that if you don't save and conserve right now financial resources, that you're not going to get the things that you want, or conversely, that you've been saving and limiting options in your life so much, Virgo, that right now you feel the need to invest in something to get what you want. You understand that you've been shortchanging yourself by not drawing upon the money that you have, and that has been lowering your life quality or whatever else. And so Pluto in its last transit of your 5th house, it's some desire that's calling your name. Something that you truly want is calling your name, and the square to that is invoking financial issues in relation to that. There may be some of you guys, and this is a strong intuitive take, some of you may really, really want something, and financial issues are causing you to be unable to get what you want. And so this square, it can be very upsetting for some Virgos right now, because it could be the hard truth that money is not necessarily there to achieve this thing. And so ask yourself what your resources are, and whatever dynamic you're experiencing in relation to money and getting what you want, honor that. Some of this will be a hard truth. Either you may look at yourself and say, crap, I'm wasting way too much money, and that's holding me back from these things I truly want. Or it may feel like I really need to risk this money right now in order to achieve the things that I want. So there may be like a really uncomfortable feeling here for you, Virgo, in terms of money. If this feeling is uncomfortable, don't react right away, but take note of it, because it's pointing to a very deep understanding of the last 15 years in terms of your relationship with money. So whether it's saving more or spending more or investing in yourself because you miss out opportunities by hoarding money too much, whatever is your life lesson, it can be a mix of both in different capacities, but just figure out that dynamic. You don't have to react right now, but the lesson is, whatever your lesson is in that relationship, follow through with that. Follow through with that, moving forward. So it's like that aha moment, like I need to save more, or aha, I'm not having life experiences because I'm saving my money all the time, and that's actually preventing me from having a full life. So, I'm going to write this down, and moving forward mindfully, I am going to invest in myself. I am going to improve my life quality. I am going to allow myself to have that experience. So whatever your lesson is, it's a harsh lesson, to be honest. Money lessons are usually harsh lessons, but because of the aspect between Pluto and Mars in the second house, I think it's like a really intense, like you should be doing this, but you're not doing it, Virgo. And it's in reference to the last 15 years. So when I was reading for Scorpio, I realized that I could make you guys a list of all the squares that happened between the final squares that happened between Pluto and Mars for the last 15 years. So you can look at those dates when they happened and see if there's a pattern of life experiences that correlate to that now you are getting that final message about. So I'm going to do that and post it on Instagram so you can look back on this. So it has to do with money and your relationship to it, and what kind of a life you live because of it, Virgo. So very like the responsibility is on your shoulders. And it's not like a win-lose kind of situation. Don't be intimidated by it. Just take the information that this square is giving you and abide by it. If you need to spend more on yourself, then spend more on yourself. If you need to be more financially conservative, then be more financially conservative. Okay, so let's see the next message. We have the Seven of Pentacles. And then we have the Five of Wands. See? Literally what I told you. Saving money and stress around that, right? And then we have Seven of Wands, Seven of Cups, which is like, buying superfluous things. And then there's you, Virgo, showing up. The confusion in what to do with it all, financially. The confusion on how to go in the path. And to be honest, I think the path, no matter what kind of a person you are, the path when they say it's not the path that you wanted, but it's the energy that is good for you. So it's like, it's not a terrible path, but it's one that you have probably and likely avoided, to be honest. Or there's some things about it that you avoid that you're going to have to do. And when you do it, I don't think it's going to be bad, but I do think that it's counter to your instincts. And so I think it's going to be a challenge for you to adopt this different approach. It's kind of like you're going to have to be really true to yourself on this one, Virgo, and it's going to work out. There's like stress around this issue. I can sense that from the square, and just I can feel the vibe. Seven of Pentacles suggests that you are kind of like, for some of you, you're hoarding money. And hoarding money it can lead to financial security, but it can also really deplete life quality of people. So, you can hoard money thinking that like one day you're going to spend it, and then something happens and you're gone and all that money's wasted. So it's not true for, like, everybody has their own lesson in this, but I think that there's seeing through like confusion or aspirations or something else, and really following what's true to you in with regard to money, to be able to have a balanced approach and achieve your dreams. And whether it's save money so you can afford them, or spend a little bit on yourself so you can have some now, you will follow that balance if you pay attention to the lesson that you're being taught now. So it's not too late. It's just a message from the universe. Okay. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm glad I came and did this reading for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I'll read all your guys' comments later, and I hope you had fun. And like I mentioned before, two things. I did a real deep dive on this yesterday, so go and watch that if you find this interesting, if you want to know more. And then on my Instagram, I will make a list of all the dates that have to do with the square between Pluto and Mars, so you guys can look back in your lives and see you know, events that happened over the last 15 years when this square was happening. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I wish you guys all the best, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, take care. Bye. Let's get ready for this eclipse. Venus in Virgo. Yay. Hi, Angela. Hi, Maria. I'm going to read all. Mara. Hi, Mara. I see your comments. Hi, Divine Feminine. Thanks for watching. And I hope you, somebody's hoarding silver. That's good. Thanks for showing up, Ray. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a nice day, and have a happy Thanksgiving if you're in Canada. Even though I don't celebrate Thanksgiving myself, I hope that you have a nice time with your family. For Americans, it's our Thanksgiving today. So we have a Thanksgiving about a month and a bit before you guys do. It's kind of weird, but I don't know. Thanksgiving as a holiday is a little bit, you know, like 80s. It's kind of antiquated because of all the stuff around it, but I do hope you guys celebrate. If you celebrate with your family, I hope that you enjoy each other's time. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.